All right. Welcome, everybody, to another glorious episode of the More Than Graphics podcast. I'm Danielle.
I'm Cicely.
And I've got all kinds of like bubbly feelings right now because I'm doing probably too many things at one time. But I also am excited in general about just kind of what's happening in and around these spaces around women in tech, these spaces around women of color. We're talking a lot about perception, and earlier in the year, we kicked off our initial episode just kind of talking about perception of spaces, how we navigate as people of color, as women in general, in and around this word perception and how we can dismantle some things or maybe build some things upon perception. So I really am excited to kind of continue this conversation with our guests. But in the meantime, Cicely, what's going on with you? How's life? How's motherhood? Can I do that? Can I elbow that?
It's life in. I always joke that, pregnancy is a different level of motherhood. And these two children are taking me on a ride. So I will be very glad when May gets here and I get to meet my kids. But yeah, I mean, they're living their best life. So I'm just here. I'm existing. I'm existing for them at this point. But I'm good otherwise. I'm just tired. That is it. Like I'm trying to power through the fatigue, and hopefully, they'll give me a break sometime soon, but probably not, and that's okay too.
I feel that. I have been in like a deep, serious binge mode. And when I feel really jolly, I keep sending Cicely some Prager food snack money.
So thank you, minigame.
So this is pretty much
what. Say thanks, Auntie Danielle.
We got to represent. So I've been in my fields a lot, just kind of getting out of that. What is it called? Blue January blues or whichever.
Yeah,
like
winter blues.
Yeah, like that's officially like a thing. I didn't even know that was like a thing, but apparently it is. Right after Martin Luther King Day, apparently people right. I'm just like, what? But I get it. I mean, after MLK Day, you gotta just kind of I understand.
Yes.
But it is one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of refeeling myself. I'm trying to figure out, okay, now the New Year's over, now the holidays are over. I'm back to self. What does that look like? What are the things I'm carrying with me now that is different from what I was carrying with me a month ago, 30 days ago, right? Ooh. And so I think that helps with this concept of, perception and how we see things differently. I'm sure the way you see things right now, Cicely, are very different from how you saw things like several months ago or even 30 days ago.
Yes, very, very much so.
So, I mean, I think we all kind of come into the space with that kind of knowledge, but also that level of wisdom that's kind of been either passed down or ingrown in us over these past several weeks, months, spaces, times. And I really don't like to put timestamps on it because a person's growth is a person's growth when it's a person's growth. And I think it's really important that we, kind of focus on that as we kind of dive a little bit deeper. I said it again, dive deeper into this episode.
It's your catchphrase now. You can't get away from it.
Like, no, get away from this
all
phrase.
The efforts.
It's not my jam. So I personally just want to, again, kick off this conversation with excitement because we have an amazing guest that actually is going to be talking a little bit deeper about her personal journey around this word perception.
Anika Howard is the president and CEO of WONDR Nation, an online gaming entertainment company focused on using emerging technologies and trends to create new and exciting experiences for players. Anika is widely recognized for her vision and unparalleled ability to profitably drive gaming companies and products into evolving territories. As an award-winning industry veteran with over 20 years of experience, Anika has worked with some of the most notable players within the gaming space, where she focused primarily on the development of interactive products and experiences. Anika has always seen technology as a great equalizer and a way to bring people together. When she's not leading interactive initiatives with WONDR Nation, Anika enjoys photography, traveling, and music. Welcome.
Hello, ladies.
I'm excited to have you here. One, because you have two of my very favorite things in the same sentence, which is gaming and women.
Yes.
This is like my two favorite things in the world. I am a personal retro gamer, and so when we had the opportunity to bring someone from that space who already has been very rooted in this platform, growing it organically, I mean, it's so powerful. I'm so glad that you're here.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And this is one of the discussions and just conversations I've been looking forward to. Like I kind of mentioned before, I really admire everything you are doing, and I have enjoyed listening. So it's now great to be part of the conversation.
All right. Okay.
I love to hear it.
I'm really kind of wanting to kind of dive straight in. Like I really want to hear more about your personal story. For people who don't know, obviously just from your bio alone, can you talk a little bit more about the growth and the level, how you started and kind of where you are now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so it's interesting. The gaming industry was not necessarily something that I woke up and said, okay, I want to be in gambling. I want to be in gaming. We had the opportunity while I was in business school to go to a hospitality event for Caesars Entertainment. At the time, it was Harrah's Entertainment, where a recruiter was just talking about the opportunities and everything that was there. I was actually going with a friend, and I ended up having just kind of one of these happy accidents and intersections where everyone was working the room. And I wound up having this really in-depth conversation with the lady that turned out to be the primary recruiter for the event. And it wasn't about Caesars or Harrah's or the opportunity, but it was really just about what are your passions and what are the things that are really important. And I started talking about just my desire to use technology as a way to, connect and all the things that they were doing. And at that point, I had no idea like how gaming necessarily, especially a casino company would allow me to do some of those things. And I was pleasantly surprised as that conversation evolved into an internship, which evolved into a rotation program called the President's Associate Program, which allowed me to get a bird's eye view of the industry. That program it was really designed to help create leaders for the company, but they felt very strongly that in order to do that, you needed to really understand how everything worked. And so you went through rotation. So you worked in ballet, you worked in, food and beverage, you worked in marketing, you worked in all these different areas. And so you got an appreciation for all the different people and how things work, but also to be able to connect and appreciate people at all levels of the organization, at all parts of the process. And in that process, I just really fell in love. I had the pleasure of doing that rotation in New Orleans, which is where I was originally born. And so I found a kinship to the people, I found a kinship to the work, but also because of the way my brain worked, I saw opportunity immediately. I saw, how technology could streamline operations. I saw how technology could create opportunities for players. And at that time, aging myself, a lot of these things weren't things that how people were thinking about doing online. A lot of these things were still very physical, high touch experiences. And so I was part of the forefront that really said, no, I think this is possible. Let's see how far we can push this forward. And I was fortunate enough that they gave me a platform and opportunity to do that.
I'm always floored by this because, okay, you're speaking all the love languages. Okay, you're saying you're meeting me at, the intersections of life. You're meeting me in all the hot topic words. I love this because every time that we talk about, women in tech, we talk about this atmosphere, the way our brains are wired. Yes. It is very different from other areas and under other industries where we have to think on our feet. Yeah. For us, it's about the systems, it's about the nodes, it's about, the details, but in a different way. And so I love the fact that you're just ringing all the bells. I hope everyone else in your listening range is also ringing all those bells because it makes sense. Like you happen to fit in a need, in a niche, in an area that could really work and thrive for you.
Yes. Yeah. And it was nice because I found that, in an industry that I didn't really, that I learned, I was able to really hone in on something that I was very passionate about. And And I think that was the biggest piece for me. I think for me, a lot of it was, I think, being young and really having the the foundation that, from my parents in school, that I never thought that I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
Like
I love that.
it was never a thought that, oh wow, maybe I couldn't do this. And so I when I talk to other women and when I have some of those conversations, I do kind of give kind of all thanks to my parents and for a lot of the programs that they put me in early on, so that I did have that strong sense of self. I mean, there always are things that will challenge that and push that forward, but it was never necessarily something that I thought, oh wow, I won't be able to do this. I could see where it would be hard, and I could see the challenges, and I could see roadblocks that people put in front of me, but it was never something that I was ever felt dejected that I couldn't do.
Mm.
I love that. Confident from the beginning.
Mhm. Definitely. And can we just give a little prop to the parents here, because this is where the seeds get dropped. And I feel like that's incredibly important. All you mamas out there are thinking, maybe I shouldn't put my kid in that program, because maybe not. Maybe they really want to be in that program and I should consider it. Yes. Put them in. Yes. Put them in the game, put them in the lane, put them in the front.
And I will definitely appreciate, I know this is kind of veering off, but I will say, I mean, my parents, like I was born in New Orleans, grew up in Washington, D.C., but they were very active in community. They were very active in the PTA. Everything from Washington for Performing Arts Society to me kind of working on a program to, with kids in the 4th grade from around the world, around the country, to plan a mission to Mars at NASA, like any type of thing that they could get me in. Like, because I was doing, work, I did projects at the aquarium. I did, built robots. So all these types of things too, that you don't realize that, that's not something that everyone gets a chance to do it. And they were resourceful. Like I was oldest of 8. So it wasn't like we had a lot of money, but they were very, very resourceful. And they made sure that we all found things that would feed our passions, or that we would just kind of, you're going to do this. Right?
We're all going to do this. Everyone's going to do this.
Yes.
I
love it. I love it. I'm so grateful for, experiences like STLP and speech and debate, and, being able to grow up in these type of communities that were supportive of the niche gifts that everyone can bring. And I think that's something that's kind of almost inherently missing sometimes. I feel like as we get older and technology becomes more and more a part of things.
Yeah. That's why a lot of what I've been doing, and kind of been a bit proponent of the idea of STEAM education, because I feel like the arts are such a big part of that. The arts are what make you, allow you to think outside the box, kind of to have this creative idea of what's possible, and that it doesn't have to be a straight line. It can be whatever you want it to be. And engineers and mathematicians and scientists need that sense of creativity to really kind of elevate and push things forward. And so I do feel like it's always like my personal soapbox, that it's always sometimes a challenge when, from education, arts and some of those things aren't necessarily, those are the first things to get pulled from a funding perspective and not necessarily fully embraced. And I think that's where you get, such a big part of your fundamentals from.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. Like, I feel so many people who are big champions of STEM, which is also wonderful, but like forgetting that arts part, because like I was not like a STEMmy sort of kid. I was not a sciencey kid, but I was a very tactile, like into just very creative things. So when I had all of those components together, it really helped me to figure out like what I was good at, what I loved. And I'm like, I may not be the sciencey girl, but I appreciate science, but I love drama. I love being able to
absolutely
act and put on hats and wear makeup and do art, even though I was really bad at art.
No, but it's like, because everyone has that kind of inner artist in them, and like, and it's really, math is a form of art. Like all these different things, when you kind of look at the fundamental pieces of it, it's about creation. And creation is, fundamentally, what are those skills and what are those things that help you define and pull those things together. And at the core of it, that's what it is.
Yes. And they're all intertwined. Like you
It
can't have
really
one
is.
without the
Yeah.
other. And I realized that, like, I think it took me till I was at the end of high school and I was like, I didn't like some of these things and, you know, I may not have been good at them, but it's still like it helped me be a better and more well-rounded person and
Yes.
appreciate the things that I still don't like to this day, but I can
Very, very
appreciate
true.
them.
It's like I didn't love everything, but I appreciate it.
Exactly. And like you said, that exposure from your parents, I
Yeah.
think that's awesome too. And I
Yeah.
loved, like, I love to see it from Black parents. I love to see it from parents of color. And I know
Mhm.
it's coming from, like, you know, a couple of different places that we
Yeah.
know that especially our girls, we have to put them in the best position possible to be super smart, well-rounded, to like try all the things, to know
Mhm.
a little bit about everything. Like we have to be Renaissance women. I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
parents realize
it's very true. Yeah.
that their girls have to be this way. But I think it's really awesome with, especially with 8 kids, like God bless your parents. And
I know. Every
because
time I
that's an
think I was
undertaking.
like, I don't know. I just don't know.
Like, how did y'all do it? I need tips. How did y'all
Yeah.
do it?
I was like, I can't
That's
even
awesome
raise
though.
myself. I don't know how you did this with 8 of us. I really don't know. And
Right.
continue.
Like I'm still a child myself. Like how did you all
Exactly.
raise
I'm like,
8 of them?
different, cut from a different cloth, definitely.
Yes.
It is totally like I come from a large family, so my mom's one of 9, my dad's one of
Mhm.
13, and I totally understand like the dynamic changes after
Yeah.
4 or after 3 really.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to see how different people from different elements of family adapt,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
how they're able to kind of, like you said, take their piece of the cloth and run with it.
Yeah.
And that's a great illustration, I feel like, for so many of us who define whatever family and community in the ways they best know how. They take that piece of cloth and they run with it.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's really, really pretty. I had a question as I kind of want to kick off more of this conversation around perception.
Yes.
You talk a lot about, you know, being able to overcome a lot of different areas of adversity
Yes.
throughout your career. Is there a time that you could share that you had to grow up or out of something, and what did that teach you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one of the first things that uh, I think there are two things. And I think, you know, growing up and evolving is really about breaking out of your comfort zone. And so I think the first thing when I think about place that I leveled up was when I first started. I was in Las Vegas, and I was very, very, very singularly focused on just the results. I was part of a team of individual contributors, but my goal was to outwork you. Like you would never find anyone working harder than me. I would be there, kind of the first person there, last person to leave, and just really, really, really focused on that, to the detriment of some of the other things around it. And so I think one of the things that I shifted is kind of understanding the importance of building relationships and alliances. And so I had to, I always kind of say I'm a situational extrovert. I'm not intentionally extroverted. I have grown to be able to flex that muscle when it needs to be flexed. But for the most part, like I am, you know, very, very comfortable, like curled up in a book in the corner, just relaxing. And so I knew that I had really reached as far as I could go on my own. And I needed to be able to build community. I needed to be able to build alliances. I needed to be able to have influence to get the things that I needed done, because I kept on hitting a wall. I kept on hitting a wall in terms of things that to do. And it was only one person. And so a big part of that were really advocating for myself, you know, and kind of the shift between, you know, when I was doing it on my own versus when I had a team, and how I moved differently. And so I think for me that that shift of realization that, okay, I'm going to have to step out of this shell and advocate for myself, because there's no one that is going to do that for me, was I think the first area where I kind of did that. And that was that helped me grow from like just being a manager to, you know, eventually growing into a director role, and that being my first director, you know, kind of executive role that really set me on the path that I am today.
And that is so powerful, y'all. I just hope everyone heard that. Like, she knew she had to go up and out. Like, she knew it was going to be some
Yeah.
level of
Yeah.
discomfort. And I feel like
Yeah.
that is so encouraging to other women who are wanting to work themselves up to whatever next level that is for them, like understanding and embracing that there is a level of discomfort.
Yeah, yeah, and then there's a shift because I remember kind of in my head having this clear, very very linear definition of what I wanted to do, and sometimes kind of what is the saying? Sometimes a door closes and a window opens. I can't remember exactly, but sometimes I realized that the opportunities that I was so laser focused weren't the opportunities that were for me, and thank God. Like when I look back about kind of the path that I had set for myself versus the path that I'm on now, I'm like, this is a much better path. I got it. And so sometimes redirection, sometimes I think setbacks aren't setbacks, but you're being redirected down the path that you're intended to. And so I think a big part of it is understanding that and being okay and really failing forward and saying that there are going to be times where I'm not, like, no one's perfect, but kind of how do you learn from those experiences, and how do you propel yourself to the next thing and not necessarily dwell on it. I mean, you'll process it because that's what we do, but like then don't kind of don't stew in it. Don't kind of like get comfortable in it. Just kind of take it and let it fuel you and push you and propel you forward.
Ooh, I love that. Hashtag failing forward, everybody. Okay. Because that is the buzzword today. I love that. I absolutely love the fact also that as you talk about this journey and actually understanding how not to stew in it, right? Like, I think that's huge. A lot of women, especially in this area, when we're in a very technological and methodical type of thinking, that's the first thing we want to do is we want to take it apart. We want to overanalyze. We want to
and
slow down, rewind backwards.
And it's really just kind of a process, because there was a point that I did. And so you have to kind of learn to just kind of, like, no, like the past is in the past. Like you can't, like, you're not a time traveler. You can't go back and do anything about that. The only thing that you can do is impact how you move forward.
I love that.
I really love like this whole the direction of that conversation. I feel like we talk about this. It comes up like once every other episode, like in the best way possible. But like, me and Danielle will always talk about like how we kind of started on similar paths and then it just diverged a little bit. And how like we're still doing like adjacent things to kind of what we started off doing. But then like I feel like both of us, the same thing, like you said, the path that we thought we wanted to be on at 17 and 18 looks completely different than where we are now. But like in a beautiful way that it evolved in a way that we wouldn't have planned for, in a way that we wouldn't have known. That again, it's one of those things where you evolve, you change, you grow, and then you just move in different directions. And then it's a beautiful thing. And that leads me into my question, is like perfect segue into it. So with that change, because we know like, even though most of us don't like change that much, we know it's going to happen. So with that change, like what do you do for self-care? What kind of self-care activities do you involve yourself in to make sure that you're taking care of yourself at every step of the way, or when those changes are happening, especially?
Yes. And so, I mean, so there are a couple of things, and this is something that I've grown into. So, I mean, the first thing is I have this amazing group of friends, and that kind of uplift me. And so a lot of times it's kind of finding opportunities to make sure that you connecting with friends and family is a big, important thing. We do that through food, through travel. I love to travel. One of the things that I'm so happy, like I celebrated the new year in Maui. And so it was just a really zen kind of like experience, and, and so spa, all of those things. And so I really have, found time to just kind of say, okay, when can I take these moments that I really just kind of feed into myself? Because you are so busy, so often, that I've been now very much intentionally kind of taking these kind of moments to do that. And so one of the things I've started to practice this year is I found this book of different kind of road trips and 1,000 weekends. And I kind of said that, I know I work remotely a lot. And so I start planning out, 3 or 4 months in advance, like what is this one place that I want to go this month? And then who's someone that I maybe have just recently met that I want to get to know better, or someone that I haven't connected with in a long time, and let's kind of figure out if this can be our kind of time to do that. And so like I said, I've traveled a lot, and I've been very intentionally about wanting to build those connections. And so for me, feeding in, those are things that I have done more recently for self-care.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, I was like, yeah, because that's me. I'm like, I'm literally like, if this was a porridge or a bowl or something, I would be eating this. Okay, so feeding yourself, like,
Yeah.
woo, higher thought. I
Yeah.
love that. Feeding yourself mentally, feeding yourself emotionally. Those kind of questions in and around putting the right people around you are extremely important. I
Mhm.
feel like tons of women in our areas around,
Yeah.
you know, in and around tech in general, whether
Mhm.
you're, even if you're a man, you have to think about the type of community that you surround yourself with.
Yes.
There's like a saying that everyone always says, like, you want to be you want to have people smarter than you. You want to be kind of almost the dumbest person in the room, quote unquote,
Yeah.
in the room. And I think that's incredibly powerful and important to have, but also having people who are feeding you other things besides the same thing all the time. I think
Yes.
having the variety, right? We talk about eat your fruits and vegetables, like all the different things. You want to have variety. And I
Yeah.
think that's even more important as we talk about, these spaces of how we perceive things in our mind and how we digest information and even how we put out information. That's really important. I love that you speak on this. This is wonderful.
We love self-care around here.
Yes.
For sure.
No, absolutely.
We're always getting ideas. I'm like, ooh, that picking like a trip being very intentional about the trips. That's
Yeah.
very smart. I might
Yeah.
steal that from you. I might start doing
Yeah.
that.
And sometimes, and here's the thing, it doesn't have to be far. It doesn't have to be that. One of the things that I kind of learned is that there's so many hidden gems that are like in your community, in your city, in your places. And I've lived a lot of places, and I think one of the things that I'm doing differently is that you live a place forever. Like I remember, like for me, when I was in Chicago, I lived in Chicago. Chicago's such a great city, and then when I was leaving, I was just like, all these things that were like people come to Chicago to do that I still did not do. And I was living here, so I had no excuse. And so now, like, how do you make sure that you're intentional about doing those things?
I love that. And like you said, it's so smart because we think about travel as always having to go somewhere. Sometimes you can have a staycation.
You
Like
can.
in Kentucky, there's a lot of like really weird kind of off the beaten path things that
Yeah.
that I didn't know about for a
Yeah.
while. And then when I actually came back to live here after college, after moving away for a while, I got to see it through a new lens. So I think that's
Yeah.
really awesome too. Like exploring your surroundings doesn't always have to be international trips on the beach, even though that's nice.
Yeah. Although
It
those
doesn't
are
always have to be that.
amazing, right?
Right. And I love that.
I joke all the time in the summer. I'm just in the baby pool drinking LA, some ginger ale. That's like my destination for the summer. So I kind of like want to turn a little bit into kind of defining what this word that we're using, the theme, perception.
Yeah.
What's the perception of women and women of color in your industry? Like for what you do, is there a turn or a certain plateau or an expectation for women in this space? And then how are you addressing it?
And so, and I think it's one of the things that sound weird to say, but sometimes I feel like there is no expectation because there is no voice and there's no one there. Like when I got promoted into this space, now they're starting to see kind of handful of women, but I can go to a conference and I'm the only one still in this day and age. I can go and I could get invited to a closed door meeting, and I'm still the only woman and the only person of color, or at a minimum, the only woman. And so I feel like there is an opportunity to advocate and to build to do that. And so it's really a lot of what I focused on are like, how do we create a pipeline of talent? How do we create a pipeline of talent to make sure that women have a path to take advantage of this, because there are no lack of smart women. There are not no lack of brilliant women. I think there's an appreciation in an industry that of what the unique gifts that women bring, and we're starting to see that more in terms of how women are being elevated, and how there is now an appreciation for emotional intelligence, where before it was, I remembered getting dinged in a performance review for emotional intelligence, and so it's just kind of a very weird thing, um, and for empathy. And so I think you're starting to see that, as more women ascend, there is more of an appreciation for, okay, now we get it. And now there are studies that kind of show that when your board is, representative of women, like you're more profitable, you're more, you get in less trouble, kind of all of these types of things that they have shown the importance of that. And so, I think the biggest thing that women bring, that is this diversity of thought, diversity of ideas in terms of how you're thinking about it, and how you're thinking about situations. There have been so many times where I've sit in a room and everybody's feeling everyone is on the same page except for me. And I'm like, am I like, does this make me insane, or does this make me, what is this? What is this? And there have been times where I didn't, this is where you do get a little imposter syndrome. You're like, okay, well, maybe it's me, because if everyone's saying it's a duck, maybe it is a duck. But what I kind of, that next kind of, evolution or shift was saying, no, it may be scary, but I'm going to give voice to that to that inner voice that's telling me I'm going to speak it out loud. And what I kind of found is that my perspective is valid. My perspective is something that's needed. And a lot of what I've been able to do once I started listening and then verbalizing was realizing that, okay, I do have a very unique perspective, and I do have an opportunity to shift things in a different way. And I think part of what this idea of kind of women in this industry is, I feel like that we're coming into our power, and we're realizing how powerful we are individually and collectively. And I think women that have that are now exercising it to try to make sure that other women have a seat at the table, or basically break the table and create a new one.
That's where I was headed. I was like, just break the damn table. Just break it. Just crack it. It's all right.
Yeah.
I love this. And there's so many gems in here. And I can see clearly Cicely is Kermit the Frog and like she's going. I love it. But we take a lot of notes in these conversations just to kind of keep thoughts and processes in our mind fresh as we're talking about a lot of these very hot topics. It is very, very, still very much I don't want to say heated, but it's a very warm conversation when we talk about emotional intelligence and how women naturally emulate that based upon presence, based upon our ability, the way that we work, the way that our minds are kind of molded in that way. And so it actually kind of reminds me of why I wore this this tag today. I decided to wear this pin intentionally for that moment. It's Hippolyta Freeman from Lovecraft Country, and it really kind of reminds me.
Okay, sorry, I just needed to say I had a moment of silence for that. Go ahead.
We can always have moments on for Hippolyta. I love Hippolyta Freeman. It was one of my favorite pieces. I cosplayed her a couple of years ago when it first came out.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be the girl in blue. I wanted to be the explorer. That was my way of connecting with being who I am, regardless of what room or what space that I'm in. I'm going to be the blue-haired girl.
Yeah.
And so that was my way of kind of holding on to this, having that courage, that the grit to do the things that are hard but are necessary so that we can empower ourselves and also pass that baton backward and empower somebody else. So I love that. Y'all, your stories are so like WONDR. Like, I love this. It's so needed to have these necessary conversations that are for women in very similar spaces that we carry every single day. They may not see the value in their day-to-day, but here we are having these conversations and saying these conversations have value. You may not see it now, but these conversations have value.
Your perspective has value, like kind of what you bring to the table, like is uniquely you. Nobody else can have can do what you do. And so really, I think embracing that. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard when like you're in a room that everyone doesn't look like you, or everyone isn't thinking like you, or you have all of these things that kind of make you want to question it. But I think that's also the importance of your network and of having just good people around you. It's so important to have people that can kind of breathe that life and that into you when you need it, and kind of be that kind of that really wind at your at on your wings that are pushing you forward and propelling you to do the things that you need to do, and being that voice in your head when you're becoming your intrusive thoughts kind of take over, and you become your own worst enemy, having someone to be able to say no and counteract that for you.
Oh man, that 80s song, like the wind beneath my
I know. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh my goodness.
I got the reference. I loved it. I was flying with you.
It's so funny. Like we had a mind melt moment, because that's exactly what the soundtrack that was playing in my head. That's funny.
I was there. I was right there with you. I felt it. I was playing it in my head like, yes, girl, yes, keep singing. I love it. Okay, so I love where this conversation is going, and I love the fact that I hope that women who are listening to this episode are really feeling encouraged and inspired, both by your story, by the encouragement of just you being present. I think that is so important. I think we kind of always forget that element, that not only are we being present in our day-to-day lives, we're being present for y'all. Like, I think that's really cool. And I think that's a really cool perspective to kind of keep in mind, sharing all these gems and passing them forward and backward, sideways, and all the other directions.
Yeah.
All around.
Yeah.
I think I love one thing that you said that really stuck out to me as well. Like when you're one of the only people that look like, if you're the only person that looks like you in a room, and like, your perspective is really varying from what someone else has to say, it really will make you feel crazy. I remember having those moments. I'm a private school kid, so I am used to now being in spaces where I'm like one of the only people that looks like me, or like the only people that has like these crazy outlandish ideas. And like, I remember the first few times, like I would say something where like no one had said it before, and I'm like, is anyone thinking it? Like, am I the only one thinking? Like, why am I thinking this and no one else is? So I remember like one of the things for me was being in a position very young, like 6, 7, 8, and we'd have like these discussions about a book or something, and I'd be like, well, I didn't see that. Like I didn't read it that way. The way I read it was like, the character was actually really strong despite like her weakness. And they'd be like, interesting. Like, okay, well, that's not, typically that's not how people see it, but I'm like, that's how that was. Like, that's
and I mean, that's a great thing. And sorry, this is my soapbox. And that's a great thing about books. I mean, it's up to how the author
interpretation
puts it out that, but like what you get out of the book is what you get out of the book. So.
Yes. So I remember being in those situations like at a very young age. So by the time like I was, older in college and then like in my professional career, it was like I would still feel a little crazy sometimes. But like, I'm gonna say, like at the risk of sounding crazy, I'm just gonna put this idea out there. I haven't heard anyone say it, and I just want to see like what people are thinking or whatever. But, I have some like facts to back it up and stuff. As a kid, you're just letting it flow. You're like, this is how I feel. These are my feelings coming out. I can't always, articulate exactly how I feel, but this is what I think. But as an adult, I now like have the confidence from being in those situations early. And now I'm just going to say what I got to say. And I said what I said. That's what we're going to do. So I love that. So another thing is like with all of your experience and obviously success in this industry, another question I have for you is what kind of encouragement could you offer our listeners who may be involved in the industry, who are looking to get into the industry? And especially one of the things that we just talked about, how there's not a lot of people of color and women of color, especially. So some people may be on the outside looking in like, these people don't want me here. They may have a bad perception of the gaming industry, of the tech industry. So what advice would you have for those people, or what encouragement would you relay to them to about this industry, or, becoming successful in the industry?
I would say find your tribe. A big part of that is so I'm on the board of directors for an organization called Global Gaming Women. And so that's a great organization. I'm also co-founder of a group called African Americans in Gaming. And so a big part of, and we're actually now, we're going worldwide, we're doing international. So now we're kind of saying that we have to expand it beyond just African Americans, because there is this whole African diaspora of people that we want to be inclusive of, that we've met through just kind of raising our hands and saying, hey, we're here, right? And so I think finding those organizations, National Black MBA is another good one. So find these organizations, because I think that is a good way where you find kind of initial network of people, so you don't feel disconnected. And I think then too, a big part of the network that I grew is, I think a lot of times when people think of mentorship and kind of needing to find all these connections, it's people that are like, oh, I need to find this kind of senior VP, or I need to find this time. And a lot of times you find it with your colleagues and with kind of with your contemporaries, and how do you together collectively build that. And so a lot of my closest friends, not by super intentional design, but just because like we were authentically connected, like we've known each other for 20, 15 years, and through all of the different kind of life changes that we've had. And so, finding those people that feed into you are going to be more important than anything, because it's very, so, and I think the other thing is success isn't necessarily linear. I think many times we assume that our direct supervisors are the people that have the most power over us. And that is, I learned probably later than I should have, that is absolutely not the case. I think part of it is that when you shine, and because you interact with so many people, there are people that are clocking you and seeing you and appreciating what you do, that you don't know. Like, some of my biggest advocates are people that didn't work directly with me, but saw kind of saw what I was doing, and saw the hustle, saw that potential from afar. And I think a lot of that are kind of that idea of getting outside of yourself, and not necessarily not making your world small, but making it big. And that is why I also feel like technology is the great equalizer, because now through all of these networking opportunities, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's TikTok, whether it's some of these other organizations that you could get involved in, it makes it much, much easier for you to reach out and connect with someone. And I would say take advantage of that.
I love this. I'm going to shout out Black Girl Gamers as well, because I'm a part of that organization as well. Yep. Myself and my company are both involved with that. And I loved it. Like, you have to get outside, right? And it's no better time. I think there was a quote that Cicely had mentioned, no better time to be alive, right? And
it isn't. I don't think so. Yeah.
So I love the fact that, as we look at opportunities to grow ourselves, we're also telling ourselves, take down your walls.
Yeah.
Take blinders off.
And that's also, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because it requires that you be a little bit vulnerable. It requires that you put yourself out there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that's not easy. And sometimes you might always gonna kiss a French, you might kiss a couple of frogs, but that's okay. You're gonna, part of it is that's part of the process, because then you learn, and you become, and you get the spirit of discernment to say, okay, now I recognize this trait that is not something that's healthy for me, because this experience has helped me recognize that, and now I can steer clear, and I'm not gonna make that mistake again.
I love it.
Forgot I was on mute. I love that. That's what I was trying to say. But I love that. Like I said, there's so many gems in what you said. And I think one of the important things too is like not being afraid to fail. Like, I think that's one of the things that we all get scared of, or like even as a kid, it's kind of, like winning is always the thing that's applauded, and winning is what you always get recognition for. Yeah. But I always joke that, like, looking back behind the many years that I've lived now, it's really interesting to be like, some of the best times and some of the best lessons, some of like the best redirections I've ever had were from failures. Like, things that didn't work out how I wanted them to at the time, or how I thought they should have been literally some of the biggest blessings and the biggest like epiphanies, like biggest moments in my life.
Yeah, no, it is.
Didn't know the things that shouldn't have been happening that actually happened. Those are some of the biggest things. So I love that. And definitely, like, I'm at this point, I just be like trying stuff to try it. I'm like, well, let's try and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then
no,
hey,
and
whatever.
I'm the same way. Absolutely the same way. Like, what's the worst that can happen, right?
Yes. And we have a former guest. What's the best that could happen was her.
Love that even more. Yeah.
So then, like, you literally, instead of going
which is
down
absolutely the right mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can think of all the positive scenarios. So, you know, most of us were like, okay, if I do this,
I like
pros and cons.
Immediately switch shift. What is the best that can happen?
It uplifts your mood. It makes you think.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm only thinking about positive stuff. I'm only thinking about the good that can come out of this. So that has been my motto now, like what, for 5 years? Ever since she said that, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to think about the bad things that can happen because we already know, like, this is reality. We're adults. We know life be life, and we don't need to, you know, we need to be a little bit delusional.
Yeah, really. I love it.
But I love that. And thank you for saying that. And thank you for, you know, mentioning failure and mentioning being comfortable with those things and just kind of moving on and, you know, being better from the lessons that we learned. Yeah. I appreciate that a lot.
I love this. This whole conversation has given me all the warm feels. This is equivalent to a digital heart hug. Like, I really, like, this has been I'm so grateful. I actually kind of want to kind of almost get to the end, or a less kind of interview-ish question.
Okay.
Which is completely off DAR, which I love because I do it every single interview, and I always get different answers. So, what did you want to be growing up, and does it reflect what you do now?
So it's interesting. When I was growing up, and I was actually looking at this because we were kind of cleaning up, I saw yearboard. So me and everybody that I knew thought that I was going to be a news reporter.
Sounds so familiar.
Everybody knew. And so I was on the school newspaper. I kind of was doing all the stuff for the yearbook. All of my teachers were really kind of like, I enjoy, and I still do, enjoy creative writing and all those pieces of that. So it just kind of I always kind of felt like I was that path. That I was pre-engineering. And so my father's a mathematician, and he was like, yeah, no, you're not. Right. But I always thought that I was going to be a reporter. And it's interesting because I feel like these have come full circle, because now with a lot of the things that we're doing and now kind of working and with my company, we're about to launch our Level Up with WONDR podcast as well. And so I was like, I kind of now am still getting a chance to do that, Dad. Take that. Right? But a lot of it is, I feel like the elements of that I did enjoy was kind of the always searching and the curiosity and wanting to find answers. And I do feel like that part of me is fed with a lot of the work that I do. And I love the fact that, you know, and it's still in kind of creating. And so a big part of my core, although it is technology, we kind of coming back to that kind of STEAM education, it's really about the artistry of it. And it's about the opportunity to be able to kind of create and look at things differently. And that I kind of enjoy it. So I was going to be a reporter. I was going to be the editor of Essence.
Yes. Okay. I think we all had dreams of being the next Black Katie Couric. Like that
exactly.
That was me. That was totally me. I'm right there with you. Journalism student, all the things. I went the student television route. Yeah. So we wrote for the paper. I dabbled with the yearbook, but I was all about the TV. I wanted to produce
my goodness,
things. So I didn't want to be in front of the camera, but I was fine to be in front of the camera if I need to. I wanted to produce. So
same. Oh my goodness, absolutely same. I kind of remember so I worked and did behind the scenes for Kathy Hughes, and I did we did all of these. Took all of these studio producer classes that kind of understand how to do that's when everything was super unnecessarily complicated of kind of pulling everything together. Yeah. So we had the same dream.
I love it. And there's so many of us out there that also want to do the same dream.
Oh, I love this for us. The black journalism, the black girl journalism.
I know, right?
It is. And I think too, and I think one of the things that it now kind of I think back, and so I still do now when you kind of doing think pieces or white papers, and so a lot of it comes out now that I am just thinking about it. Kind of a lot of that muscle that you kind of developed early on there, it still comes out, and you just use it in different ways, I think.
Exactly.
Ooh, that's a good analogy.
Just not in the traditional way, right? Just using it. We're just, sharing it all around in ways we didn't even know. Like I joke all the time. I write all the time. Like I still write all the time.
And I love
I'm always
it.
writing. I'm always doing some of the writing still. So I think that's awesome.
Hashtag flex your muscle. Okay. Like I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. That was real deep. I'm like, okay. How can they reach out to you if they want to know more information about the amazing work that you do?
Well, thank you. So, I mean, you can search my name and find me on LinkedIn. So Anika Howard. And my handle for just about everything is Web Diva. That's WEBDIVAH. So that's the last thing are my initials, AH. So those are probably the easiest ways to find me.
Okay, awesome. Y'all, I'm definitely going to be following her on all things if I'm not already. I'm pretty sure we're already connected on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep going all the other areas. And we'll be sharing all of her contact information in the show notes. So
no, and absolutely. And then I think also too, and the last thing I'll plug, because we are hiring and recruiting. So if you go to wondernation.com, we are always looking for just kind of diverse kind of people that want to change the world and want to do it with a cool band of bandits. So, definitely check us out.
She said bandits, y'all. I love it. Yes. Come on. I was ready for that.
If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be and what would your superhero name be?
Oh, so my superpower, I'm thinking, I think it might be invisibility because I'm a little snoop. So my superpower would be invisibility, and
the name is always harder.
And so let's see, what would my what would my superhero name be? So let me think. Let's see. So if I'm invisible and my superpower would be glass. Maybe my name would be
Ooh, like it. See-through, fragile but sturdy.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That's really good. You did way better than me. I don't even think I ever came up with an answer in our episode. I was like, girl, I don't know. But here's my power. What's your go-to karaoke song? And can you give us a quick rendition?
My God.
Only if you dare. I didn't dare. So not dare.
My karaoke song is Purple Rain. Yes. And I will not dishonor the artist formerly known as Prince with my rendition that will be forever kind of captured on your podcast. I will not do that to his memory.
I'm a diamond girl
all day long. He was an artist and he was sensitive about his stuff. So
yes, very, very, very much. I don't want him to be giving me that look from heaven, like, girl,
girl, you knew better. If you had to survive a zombie apocalypse, which 3 items would you bring from home, making a run for? Would you grab from your home before making a run for it?
For a zombie apocalypse, well, I would get my lighter because I think from watching The Walking Dead, I don't think they like fire.
They do not.
A lighter. I guess a knife since I don't have a sword, and I don't know, like my keys, because maybe I'm not going to be able to run. I need to get my car.
I love that. I love the practicality.
It's
a different level, Michonne. Like I see that.
Exactly. This is practical, Michonne.
I'll be stabbing you and setting you on fire.
2024 post-pandemic, Michonne.
Yes, there we go.
I love it. Share an embarrassing moment from your past that you can laugh about now.
Oh my goodness.
She's embarrassed just thinking about it.
There's so many. Let's see. see what is the most embarrassing thing that I could share. Uh, so so one of the things that I like, so I'm not the most graceful person due to. So I've been known to trip over my shadow, but I think the most embarrassing thing is like walking into a glass wall, thinking that it is, with kind of, and then thinking you're okay. I'm like, okay, because it's like, it's glass, but it's kind of privacy glass. So you're like, okay, no one saw you. And then you go in the building, you realize that everybody saw you because it's like a crowded lobby. And you're like,
it's going to melt into the floor now.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, yeah.
You're turning into glass yourself now.
Now you get a bonus one. So commuting on kind of catching the train in DC. So it's cold, it's snowy, whatever, you're trying to run for the train. So you try to go, it's kind of closing, and I run and I do get it, but I slide in like I'm sliding into first base.
Oh my God.
As the doors are closing. And so I'm like, kind of wish I would have missed this train because I'm like,
hi everyone, just splayed out. Like, at least I made it though, right?
I'm glad I made it. So
who's on first?
New York City. I went to college in New York City, so lots of trains, subways, stairs, bus moments.
So like, so at one point I was like, I don't think I can be embarrassed anymore because like I was like, there's nothing you can do to embarrass me more than I've already embarrassed myself. So
right, like what's left?
Yeah, there's nothing.
I love it. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, dead or alive, who would it be, and what's the one burning question you'd ask them?
Oh wow. No, so I always think about this a lot. And so I don't know, there's so many, but I think I would put Nelson Mandela and I would ask him like what gave him the fortitude to move forward, like to stay committed through through his imprisonment. So, yeah.
I think that's amazing. Like I literally feel that people who've gone through that level of adversity, like what kept you there? Like
what kept you there? Like how did you like there's so many,
because we're like horrified by the things, right? We just can't fathom, like, how did this person do this thing?
How did you? Yeah.
Like, what did you have? Sir, we need it. We need to know this.
Like, we need all of that. We need all of that.
I agree. I love that answer. And last but not least, what's the weirdest or most unexpected item on your bucket list, and why is it there?
So the weirdest thing is, like, I want to go to Antarctica, and I've almost gone like a bunch of times, and but I'm also definitely hate the cold, and I'm convinced that it's going to be a kind of the thing situation where there's going to be alien in the and the thing, and I would like, and I'm going to be just kind of there. But yeah, I've always wanted to do Antarctica. Whatever.
I love that. That's like really one of the most unusual things I heard. I think that's awesome though. Like who wants to go to Antarctica? I love cold places, the thought of them. I just don't want to like physically experience
no, every time I hear about the Drake Passage and all these other things that you have to do to get before you even get to Antarctica, I'm like, I don't know why this is the thing that I feel like I need to do. And so like I've kind of always done it, and I keep on pushing it further back. So it's like there are things that are more practical and more enjoyable
that can
I should do before I like get kidnapped by aliens. So
well, I hope one day aliens barred that you actually get to go and come
Me
back
too.
and report and tell us about it.
Me too.
I love
I
that.
think of that movie Ice Age, where the squirrel's like all frozen up, and
yes, exactly. That would be me. You like
you find the frozen aliens just for you. They were waiting on you to get there. That's what it was. Terrible.
Oh my goodness. Well, Anika, this has been such an amazing conversation. I have really enjoyed hearing all of your responses, your engaging stories, just the amazing insight you've been able to pour into myself and to anyone in listening range of this episode. So I personally thank you for your time and your wisdom today.
I'm just really thankful for your perspective and sharing your experiences with us, the embarrassing moments, all the things. And I really hope that whoever was within listening distance was able to get some really good gems today and just really kind of take something away, especially if they're on the Black girl journalism track. Just know it can lead many different ways.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you all again so much for listening. We really appreciate the encouragement and the wisdom that any of you are sharing in and around this podcast. From all of us to each of you, we want to remind you that you are more than graphics, and we hope that this space continues to ignite your next ... So until next time, everybody.
And just like that, the episode ends, but the convo has just begun.
Thanks for listening to the MTG podcast.
We want to hear from you. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it a review on your listening app of choice.
Continue to follow us across MTG socials.
And look out for bonus content releases throughout the year. This podcast is produced by Octane Design Studios.
Until next time, friend.